rematch 8 years, 9 months, and 18 days in the making that you didn't know you needed in the UFC. Coming up this weekend, we have killer Karine Silva looking to hold on to that nickname and hope that Juliana Miller retired it last weekend. Silva rematching with the Iron Lady, Maryna Moroz. And if you didn't know that this was a rematch, back years ago, Karine Silva was 21 years old, taking on 23-year-old Maryna Moroz. And I've talked about this fight. It seems like every time Silva and every time Moroz fight. But if you go back and you watch it, it was actually Maryna Moroz's stepping stone into the UFC to then take on Joanne Calderwood as a plus 550 underdog, get a performance of the night bonus with a first round armbar win. And if you watch Silva versus Moroz, the same thing happens. But from the outset, the fight starts off and Karine Silva looks like a much bigger fighter. She runs in there, throws the Superwoman punch. They clinch up. Moroz pulls guard. Silva plays around a little bit. She kind of gets to a decent position where she's stacking. Moroz is looking armbar. Silva stands back up. They go back down to the mat once more, and Moroz is able to sync up that armbar. And the rest is history, so you would think. Not quite. Silva's had a wild run on the regional scene. Since that fight against Maryna Moroz, Karine Silva is 11-2, and the two losses are against really good fighters, and the wins are against some decent fighters. Silva fought on Contender Series. She comes into the UFC. You're still not maybe 100% sold. She gets a performance bonus against Poliana Botelho, and Silva's last time out, she was supposed to take on a bigger name, but the fight gets scratched, so she ends up with the Invicta flyweight champ, Ketlin Souza, and I was excited to see Ketlin Souza. And I hope I'll get to see Ketlin Souza in the UFC maybe one day, because Karine Silva took her leg home with her. So
it was such a nice
Silva,
submission.
every single win a finish throughout her career. And for Maryna Moroz, the highs have been high, the lows have been low in the UFC. But in her last fight, she was riding a 3-fight win streak. She had some finishes in her back pocket. She takes on former challenger of the flyweight strap, Jennifer Maia. And Maryna Moroz was pretty well a 2-1 favorite. Most people thought that Moroz would win. And boy, did she ever get ground out in that attempt. So now you're in a buy low situation with Moroz, a buy high situation with Silva, and they get to rematch here.
Maryna Moroz had a really weird run in the UFC, and when I first started thinking about this fight, I just saw a commercial. They're bringing Wipeout back. Fun fact, Wipeout's a great show.
American Wipeout or Canadian Wipeout?
Well, John Cena's going to be the host, so it's American Wipeout. But you remember that one section of the course where just all those boxing gloves that are coming out all over the place? That's kind of how Maryna Moroz does fight. Now, all those shots aren't going to connect similar to in Wipeout. All those punches do not connect. But it really is a sea of punches that you have to wade yourself through before you are able to have success against her. She really is in that cut of Caitlin Chukagian is another fighter like that, where you're just going to realize, okay, I'm going to have to eat a couple of shots before I have my own success, but they're not going to be the hardest punches out there. And I'm glad you bring up the armbar position from Moroz, because I wouldn't say she's the greatest grappler, but she is a very dangerous grappler when she's able to get the fight in certain positions. She loves going for that armbar. You bring it up. That's how she beat Joanne Calderwood. She gets her, flips around, gets the beautiful armbar, and it's a position that Moroz is very adept at and very experienced with. So you always have to watch out for some of those positions when it does hit the mat, because I think a lot of fighters go in there realizing, okay, I might get out volume on the feet. I should probably shoot for a takedown here or there. But Maryna does, or has done a very good job of at least making that position that you would perceive as a weakness be a more dangerous position than just, oh, I can stay on top of her and kind of negate some of that output. But we have seen, especially throughout this run from Silva, that if she's able to get on top or at least use her physical strength to isolate different positions of her opponent, there's not a lot of athletes in this division who can really start fighting out of those spots. She does have a, hey, if I'm committed to this Kimura, if I'm committed to the Darce, if I'm committed to the knee bar, it's a difficult spot to get out of. I'm just curious to see if she has enough sustainability in this fight to where, okay, I go for that big submission, I might burn out my arms a little bit, I don't get it. Is she going to have that second tier to her game when Moroz is able to just be on the back foot, throwing that crazy sea of volume at her?
And that's it with Moroz. We haven't really seen the gas tank of Karine Silva in the UFC. It was a question for me coming in. It was also a question of, well, what happens if she gets held down, bogged down, kind of like, and you saw it last weekend in Poliana Viana, but what happens if that happens to Karine Silva? And for Maryna Moroz, likewise, she was to the nth degree with her boxing in her native Ukraine. We knew her for that, but also you're such a good boxer. but you go for so many arm bars. It's just really a bit of a clash of styles within her own style. And for Moroz, I mean, a long time training or fighter training out of American Top Team. So she has Karolina Kowalkiewicz to get ready with for this matchup. For Karine Silva, training down in Brazil, Gili Ribeiro team, and she's trained there for a very long time. We've mentioned a lot of the partners or some of the bodies that have been at that gym for a very long time as well. Augusto Sakai, Hajiri Bontarin, I mean, man. Whatever happened?
Run he had.
Whatever happened to that guy? But when it does come down to this matchup, Matt, might surprise some people. Moroz already has a win in this matchup, but Karine Silva about a 2-1 favorite. So go ahead.
And this is the thing about Moroz that I've always had a really difficult time with. Normally, a lot of these fighters, especially in this division, like flyweight and Moroz was a strawweight before that, they're not the deepest divisions, right? So a lot of these athletes, even if they're outside of the top 15, they will have gone on that one big run throughout their career to kind of make the push. Moroz, for the majority of her career, has kind of been that 12 to 15 or just on the outskirts of the ranking. She never really has that one dominant run that made you think, oh wow, she could be a contender in the future.
The 3 wins that she had before the Maia fight, that was the run, because then she was favored to beat Maia. But
you're right, it just, even the Maia fight, like she got beat so soundly in that it just kind of makes you reverse and go, okay, is she just going to kind of be stuck in that 12 to 15 category for the rest of her career? Because like you said, there are some fighters, like Aljamain Sterling has a complementary skill set. He throws insane volume at you, and then if he gets you to the mat, it's pretty much lights out. For Moroz, a lot of her game is at a high level. It just doesn't fit together like a perfect puzzle.
We have a look at the Tapology votes. Surprised to us as they are to you. I'm going to say over under 80% Karine Silva.
I think they're going to be over.
I think they're going to be over, and they are over slightly. 805 total votes, 84% Silva, 68% by submission for the 16% that have Moroz. 78% by decision. In this fight, I have Karine Silva. I'm surprised that she lost the first time that she fought Maryna Moroz in the way that she fought. And as long as the elbows, knees, and toes are tight in for Karine Silva and she can avoid some of those bad positions against Moroz, I think she can have success. But when you look at a fight like this, Matt, Silva, it's a lot of big actions with her Muay Thai. And for Moroz, she can kind of dazzle you with a little bit of that volume in the mirror. Maybe Moroz is able to outlast Silva in this matchup, but I do think Silva can get it done.
And I agree with you, and I think a big portion of this fight is going to be that top position from Silva, because if Moroz is able to be squirmy enough off her back to where Silva can't really get a dominant spot to go out there and convincingly win the round, then Moroz, if she's able to get back up to her feet, could just pitter-patter, and do enough in some of those moments to win rounds. But I agree with you. I think the big actions from Silva should be able to win her this fight.
Both of us going with killer Karine Silva to get the win. Let us know who you have in this matchup. Some big-time fights in this card, including 3 at middleweight. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.